Now with the impending release of Dragon Age The Veilguard, just what is the best Rook for you? Well, Dragon Age The Veilguard has 4 races or lineages, as it's described here, 3 classes, each with 3 different subclasses, and 6 different backgrounds or factions with a range of skills and benefits. So just what is the best race, class and background for your Rook? I'm here to help you with that by breaking down everything to hopefully make it easier for you to jump straight back into Thedas. Or spend even longer in character creator, I know you like. Now before I break everything down, these are my 2 warnings. There may be unintentional spoilers in this video, but all the footage you will see has already been shown by BioWare. Secondly, in my honest opinion, perfect design for your Rook is whatever you think is cool. I understand some people like to min-max, hence this video, but my advice will forever be, play what you think looks cool. So that being said, let's jump in. In Veilguard, Rook can be either a human, an elf, a dwarf, or a Canary, much like Dragon Age Inquisition and the Inquisitor. Now as far as the character creator shows, it doesn't appear that there are any benefits to choosing certain races stat-wise, for example no bonus to magic or dexterity. However, what this will do is affect how certain characters in the world will react to you during dialogue. There are a few choices during character creation that will be locked due to what you choose. Elves can't have beards, for example, and like every other Dragon Age game, dwarfs cannot be mages. Once you've made your character's design, the next option to decide upon is the class you wish to play. Now as said in Veilguard, your options are Warrior, Rogue, and Mage, each with 3 different subclasses within them to choose from. Again, another running theme throughout the Dragon Age franchise. So let's start in order, and we'll begin with the Rogue class. This was the class that we were first shown by BioWare using a combination of 2 swords as well as a bow and arrow. The Rogue appears to be the most fast-paced class to play as, using momentum to be able to use abilities. The momentum we built up by dodging attacks and deflecting them to land counterattacks. The Rogue has the ability to switch between the sword and the bow at will, making it a very versatile class to play the game through with. From a gameplay aspect, this class does appear to be the most action RPG orientated to me personally. The 3 subclasses or specializations open to the Rogue are as follows. We have the Duelist, the Saboteur, and the Veil Ranger. The Duelist is built around parrying and dodging strikes to land powerful counterattacks, and the abilities along the skill tree are very Antive and Crow themed. Lots of extra necrotic damage, AoE in quotation themed melee attacks, such as the ultimate ability Murder of Crows. I kind of get like Batman Arkham style vibes from this subclass, and the class in general to be honest, and this specialization is going to be perfect for people that want a fast paced melee style that looks cool. The Saboteur reminds me a lot of Varric's specialization in Inquisition, the Artificer I believe it was called. This revolves around traps and explosives, a very sneaky planning build that does strike me personally as the most battlefield control-ish. The ultimate ability sees you be able to use what I can only really describe as a medieval fantasy grenade launcher, I guess. And then we have the Veil Ranger. Now this is your long-range specialization with an ultimate ability using lightning damage, in contrast to the Duelist with the necrotic. If you want to play Rogue and find yourself really liking the bow and arrow aspect of combat, as opposed to the melee aspect, then Veil Ranger is probably the safe bet for you. Moving on to the Warrior class, this is your typical tank or glass cannon. I'm looking at you, Iron Ball. There are 2 fighting styles for your Warrior, your Sword and Shield, which seems more tanky and defense based, or a 2-handed weapon, which is more your Warrior DPS option, with what seems to be smaller AoE attacks as you swing your giant weapon in arcs around you. In contrast to the Rogue class, who builds momentum, Warriors build rage, by attacking and dealing damage. I also want to note that you can unlock an ability to throw your shield as a ranged attack, just like Captain America, which looks pretty cool. For the Warrior, the specialization options for you to choose from are Reaper, Slayer, and Champion. The Champion is the sword and shield design specialization with an emphasis on fire damage and crowd control. The ultimate ability allows you to call down a volley of arrows to deal mass damage to a crowd of enemies. If you want to be a tank of the party and be at the forefront of combat, then this is the specialization for you as a Warrior. The Slayer is a 2-handed weapon specialization, pure DPS with heavy physical damage. On the surface, it does seem like a rather basic and easy specialization, so if you just want to hit things really hard with a giant hammer, then this is the option for you. Reapers are able to leech life from enemies as well as deal extra necrotic damage, making this a very DPS themed specialization. The Reaper has the ability to cause enemies to become siphoned. This ability not only allows you to deal necrotic damage, but also regain a small portion of health. This is a specialisation that seems designed for two-handed weapons, but I'm sure with the skill tree you could easily make this work with a sword and board. And finally we have the Mage. Now the Mage is always a fun class to play as regardless of the franchise, so Dragon Age happily falls into that category. Much like the Warrior, the Mage class allows you to switch between two weapon sets. A Magic Dagger allows you to do magical melee damage, and the traditional Staff. The Mage, as you can probably guess, revolves around mana instead of rage or momentum. For specialisations, the Mage can choose from either Spellblade, Evoker, or Deathcaller. The Spellblade, as you can probably guess, is the melee-themed Mage specialisation. There's a focus on electric damage with the ultimate ability called Thunderous End, allowing you to stack up Shocked, a debuff you can place upon enemies. The Evoker is an ice-themed specialisation, in my opinion the most traditional of Mage specialisations. The ultimate ability, called Vortex of Shadows, creates a vortex that pulls enemies within it to deal damage, a nice crowd control spell to pull everyone together. This is a strong AoE and area of effect specialisation that is perfect for people who love controlling the battlefield. And then that brings us to the Deathcaller. This is kind of your necromancy type skill, a necrotic themed specialisation that's ultimate ability allows you to steal life from enemies around you before causing a large amount of damage to them. This does seem like a ranged melee specialisation, so if you prefer using the staff or just don't like the magic knife, then this is a solid option, and thematically it's pretty cool. So you might have noticed a theme with the specialisations. There's one for each set of weapon styles. Veil Ranger for the bow, a duelist for the dual swords, champion for the sword and shield, slayer for two-handed, spellblade for mage knife, and evoker for staff. Then there's one specialisation in each class that isn't tailored to a weapon type. For example, Saboteur works well with a bow and arrow or the swords. So just bear that in mind when choosing what type of fighting style you want at the start of the game. With that being said, however, I'm 100% sure that it'd be easily feasible to choose any of the specialisations regardless of the weapon you prefer. Hence the ability to switch between them during gameplay. Another note that the specialisations being themed around certain factions, so for example the champion being themed around Grey Wardens, you don't have to choose that faction background to use that specialisation. So don't force yourself to pick a faction just because you like the subclass that goes along with it. That brings us very nicely onto backgrounds, or factions as they're called in the game. There are 6 factions in the game to choose from, and each one has a few buffs over the other factions. Your faction will change the surname of your Rook, how certain factions in the game will respond to you, and change your backstory slightly, which I won't describe here. I'll let you read about those in the game. The factions to choose from are as follows: Grey Wardens, Shadow Dragons, Lords of Fortune, Veil Jumpers, and Teven Crows and Mournwatch. So let's look at these closer. The Grey Warden background gives you Bounded in Blood, allowing you to gain reputation with the Wardens quicker, Blight Killer, which gives you increased damage against Darkspawn, and Vigilant Training, which boosts your base health and defense. Suggesting this background is very good for tanking paired with the champion specialization of the warrior, which is why Davarin is exactly this type of character. Shadow Dragons provide Light in the Dark, so that's quicker reputation with the Shadow Dragons, Never to Rise, which is increased damage versus Venatori, and Resourceful, that provides a slightly faster regen to class-specific resources, so that's a benefit to all classes. The Lord of Fortune provides Together in Glory, which is a faster reputation gain with their faction, Healthy Competition, which is increased damage versus mercenaries, and Relentlessness, which allows you to do takedowns on enemies with less effort. The Veil Jumpers provide you Close to the Veil, so this is fast reputation with the Veil Jumpers. Attuned Strikes, which gives you increased damage versus Fade touched enemies, and finally Keen Eye, which provides slightly increased weak point and critical damage. So while this does sound perfect for Bow of a Rogue, I truly think this would benefit every class, so don't be put off to make a Veil Jumper two-handed warrior. And Teven Crows provide Under Their Wing, fast rep with the Crows, Open Contract for increased damage versus Antam, I'm unsure what those are currently, and Hidden Pouch so you can hold an extra potion, again a rather versatile background for anyone who wants to min-max. And finally the Mournwatch, which gives you Recognized Name, therefore faster reputation with this faction. Return to the Grave, which is increased damage on demons and undead, and Acute Affliction, which allows you to deal extra affliction stacks on target. This does seem the most tailored to a mage personally, especially the Deathcaller specialization. So that is everything you need to know to help build your Rook. As stated, there's a lot more min-max options when paired together. However, as I said before, I would personally just do whatever you think is the coolest combination. If you want a Grey Warden Deathcaller, then do it. That sounds really dope. Just remember to have fun. Choose something that's going to help you become more immersive in the game, and that you're going to enjoy playing for however long the game is. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please drop it a like and subscribe to the channel for more Dragon Age The Veilguard content. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.